Are you ready?
Every house has a story. What you can learn about that house tells you a lot about the people, the places, and the home in which you live. My name is Kathy Shen, and I am a history enthusiast. A bit of a history geek, actually. During Christmas, I researched my boyfriend Blair's house by going to the city directories, city archives, online resources, books, the library, to find out different things about his house. And today I'm not going to tell you too much about his house specifically, but what you can research to find about your house. Give you a general idea of where I researched was in Vancouver. That yellow dot right there is where Blair's house is. So today I'll talk a little bit about the history of Vancouver. First, research about the people who lived in your house. I went and found out through the city directories that a man named Fred Holland lived in Blair's house. What's interesting about Fred is that he worked as a branch manager at a store named Piggly Wiggly. What's interesting about Piggly Wiggly is that it was a supermarket chain from the United States in the 1920s and 30s. A fairly big one in Vancouver until Safeway came up and bought it out. Before Piggly Wiggly, if you wanted to buy something at a store, you had to go in, stand behind a counter, ask a clerk to take out items off the shelves. After Piggly Wiggly came along, they invented some of the supermarket norms that we now know today, such as checkout counters, refrigerated boxes, employees in uniforms, and prices marked on items. What else did I find out about Vancouver? And what can you find out about your city when you research your house? I'm going to take this map and let you look at it for a couple of seconds before I explain it. So this is a map of Vancouver. Vancouver was amalgamated in 1886, 128 years ago. And as you can see, it was a fairly small city in 1886. In 1911, this section and this section here amalgamated to become a bigger part of Vancouver. And in 1929, the municipality of Point Grey and the municipality of South Vancouver amalgamated to what we now know as the city of Vancouver, for the most part. There are other smaller sections of Vancouver that came in afterwards. So fairly interesting what I found when I did this research. So this is something you can find when you do your research. And what else did I find? I researched about house styles, or about the home that Blair's house is. You may be familiar with the Vancouver Special or the Victorian style house. What I found out was that most houses in Vancouver fall into one of 19 Vancouver house styles. And you can check yours out on Vancouver Heritage Foundation, if you live in Vancouver, what your type of house is. For Blair's house, this is called a craftsman bungalow. So this came out of a reaction to the Victorian style houses, where builders felt that they needed to simplify the style of house. They didn't want a lot of detailing. They didn't want any elaborate housework. For example, the Craftsman Bungalow is a 1.5-story house with a gable, narrow stairs, smaller posts than your Victorian house. So there you have it. When you do your research, I'm sure you can find out a lot about the people, the place, and the home.
Nice. So what was... Oh, questions, anyone? Well, I have a question. So when you say do our research, what was the... How did you go about this, Kathy? Because it seems like you got a lot of information. What were your sources?
It was quite difficult to find out how to do it at first, but once you dug a little deeper in each area, you found out a lot. So first I started by just Googling online how to research a house in Vancouver. And then I found out that you can go to the City of Vancouver archives, and they have a booklet of how you can research your house. You have to use a lot of microfilm.
Oh yeah, the
and
old-fashioned
I didn't know how to use
research.
that before, but the staff was very helpful, and they showed me how. I also used online resources, so I found out who lived in the house through the city directories, and then I Googled that person's name, and there just happened to be a family tree of that person's family, and the number of children they had, the names of the children, where they live now, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right, great. So we can just start by going to how to research your house in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's it.
You were showing how the different municipalities merged together. Did you find there were certain trends of the housing styles in certain areas?
Oh, very good question. Yes, if you look up Vancouver Heritage Foundation, you'll see 19 house styles, and those are they all generally fall into a generation. So, for example, the Craftsman Bungalow was developed in 1905 to 1930. It was very popular. And then the Vancouver Special was from 1965 to 1985. So depending on where it became more popular to build, those houses look a lot alike. So I looked at a lot of pictures from Shaughnessy, and they're all really big mansions, but the style of house there look very similar. It's the Victorian and Edwardian houses, because that was the same era that they built the houses in.
Good, great, super. Okay, how'd that feel?
Not as good as yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah.